You wake up one morning and realize something uncomfortable. You're getting older. Not in a dramatic movie montage kind of way. Not overnight, just quietly, subtly. One year blending into the next, and then one random Tuesday, maybe while driving to work or standing in line at the grocery store, a thought sneaks into your head. Am I going to be okay when I'm older? No alarms go off. No one hands you a warning letter. There's no official moment where adulthood taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, you should probably have this figured out by now. It just appears. That small, tight feeling in your chest when you hear someone mention retirement. That nervous laugh when a coworker jokes about working forever. That quick mental math you try to do in your head and then immediately avoid. Most people don't talk about it out loud, but almost everyone feels it. And that feeling has a name. It's silent panic. For a long time, we were taught that retirement was supposed to be simple. Go to school, get a good job, work hard, save a little, and someday everything just magically works out. That was the story, and for some generations, maybe that story actually made sense. But somewhere along the way, life got more complicated. Wages didn't rise the way expenses did. Housing became harder to afford. Careers stopped being straight lines and started becoming zigzags. Layoffs, career changes, unexpected bills, family responsibilities, all of it piled on. And now millions of normal, hardworking people are looking up from their lives and quietly thinking the same terrifying thought. I did everything I was supposed to do, so why do I still feel behind? That question sits heavy, because retirement anxiety isn't really about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about fear. Fear of running out of time, fear of becoming a burden, fear of losing independence, fear that all those years of effort might not be enough. And here's the part almost no one says out loud. Most people who feel this way are not irresponsible. They're not lazy. They're not failures. They're just regular people living in a world that changed faster than the plan did. We grow up absorbing this invisible idea that by a certain age, we should feel set. That by 30, 40, or 50, we're supposed to have reached some invisible checkpoint where money stops being stressful. And when that doesn't happen, we assume something is wrong with us. But the truth is much simpler. No one really teaches you how to emotionally prepare for getting older. You learn how to work. You learn how to pay bills. You learn how to survive month to month. But nobody pulls you aside at 22 years old and says, by the way, at some point, you're going to start worrying about the future in a way you've never worried before. So when the anxiety shows up, it feels personal. It feels like you're the only one. You scroll through social media and see people traveling, renovating houses, celebrating promotions, and you quietly compare their highlight reel to your private worries. And the gap between where you are and where you think you're supposed to be starts to feel painfully wide. That's where the panic grows. But let me tell you something important. Retirement anxiety is not a math problem first. It's an emotional problem first. Most people assume their stress comes from not knowing enough about investing or saving. They think, if I just understood money better, I wouldn't feel this way. But that's rarely the real issue, because even people who know the numbers still lie awake at night worrying. The real problem is deeper. It's uncertainty. Human beings are not built to feel calm about big unknown futures, and retirement is one giant unknown. You don't know exactly how long you'll live. You don't know what your health will be like. You don't know what the economy will do. You don't know how much things will cost. So your brain does what human brains always do with uncertainty. It fills in the gaps with worst-case scenarios. And suddenly retirement stops feeling like a peaceful chapter of life and starts feeling like a cliff you might fall off. Think about how strange the whole idea really is. You spend your entire adult life working, 40 years of structure, schedules, paychecks, routine. And then one day society says, okay, now stop. Live the rest of your life without that system. Of course, that feels scary. It's not just a financial transition. It's an identity transition. For decades, your job answers the question, what do you do? It gives shape to your weeks. It gives you purpose. It gives you a reason to get up in the morning. And retirement asks you to reinvent all of that at an age when change feels harder. No wonder so many people panic. There's also a quiet shame wrapped around this topic. People don't like admitting they feel unprepared. They don't like confessing that they haven't saved enough, so they carry the worry alone. Husbands avoid talking to wives about it. Friends dodge the subject with jokes. Co-workers pretend they're confident even when they're terrified. Everyone assumes everyone else has it figured out. Meanwhile, millions of people are lying in bed at night doing the same nervous calculations in their heads. How many years do I have left to work? How much should I have saved by now? What if something goes wrong? It becomes a private fear you visit over and over again. And here's where we need to pause and challenge a very common belief. Most retirement anxiety is not actually caused by being too late. It's caused by believing a story about what too late means. We've been sold this rigid timeline. Start early, save perfectly, never make mistakes, retire comfortably. But real life doesn't follow neat timelines. People get divorced, businesses fail, kids need help, parents get sick, careers get interrupted. Very few people have a smooth, flawless financial journey. Yet the retirement narrative acts like any detour means you've ruined everything. That simply isn't true. I want you to picture two different people. The first person did everything right. Started saving at 25. Never changed careers. Never faced major setbacks. The second person struggled. Maybe they started late. Maybe they made mistakes. Maybe life knocked them around. Society tells us only the first person gets to feel calm about the future. But in reality, both of them can still end up okay. Because retirement isn't a single test you either pass or fail. It's a long process of small adjustments. And most people dramatically underestimate how much progress can happen later in life. One of the biggest myths we carry is that the past matters more than the present. People in their 40s and 50s often say things like, if only I had started earlier. If only I had saved more. If only I hadn't wasted so much time. But those thoughts don't help you move forward. They just freeze you in regret. What matters most isn't what you did 10 years ago. It's what you do next. Small, consistent changes made later in life are far more powerful than most people realize. Yet anxiety tricks you into thinking the story is already over. Another hidden source of panic is the way we imagine retirement itself. Many people picture it as a single dramatic moment. One day you're working, the next day you're not. And from that point on, you live only off savings. That image is terrifying if your savings don't look huge. But real life is usually much messier and more flexible. Some people work part-time longer than they expected. Some transition slowly instead of stopping abruptly. Some reduce expenses instead of chasing big investment returns. Some discover they don't need nearly as much as they feared. The all-or-nothing version of retirement that lives in our heads rarely matches how it actually unfolds. Yet we panic over the imaginary version. And then there's comparison. Comparison is gasoline on retirement anxiety. You hear about someone your age with a massive portfolio. You read articles saying you should have some enormous amount saved by now. You see people online talking about early retirement like it's normal. And you quietly measure yourself against those stories. But those stories are usually extremes, not averages. Most ordinary people do not have perfect financial lives. They have messy, imperfect, complicated ones, just like you. So let's slow all of this down, because the goal of this conversation isn't to scare you. It's to help you breathe again. Retirement is not a monster waiting in the future. It's simply another stage of life that can be shaped, adjusted, and improved over time. And the turning point begins with one important mindset shift. Instead of asking, am I too late? The better question is, what can I realistically build from here? That single change in perspective removes so much unnecessary weight. When you stop treating retirement like a pass or fail exam, something interesting happens. You realize it's less about perfection and more about direction. Most people imagine they need a heroic transformation to fix their future, but real security is usually built quietly, through boring, unexciting, ordinary decisions repeated for years, not dramatic miracles. Think about how many other parts of life work this way. Health improves slowly, not overnight. Relationships get better through small daily efforts. Careers grow step by step, not in one giant leap. Retirement is no different. Yet anxiety convinces us that anything less than a perfect plan is pointless. That belief keeps people stuck. Another powerful realization is this. Retirement success is not only about how much you save, it's also about how you learn to live. Two people with the exact same amount of money can experience completely different levels of peace. One feels constantly afraid it isn't enough. The other feels calm and content. The difference isn't math, it's mindset and lifestyle. Learning to reduce fear is just as important as learning to increase savings. This is where we reach the turning point. Because once you understand that retirement anxiety is largely emotional, you stop waiting for some magical number to rescue you. You start focusing on things you can actually control: your habits, your expectations, your flexibility, your willingness to adapt. Security becomes less about hitting a fantasy target and more about building a stable, realistic future one step at a time. Imagine two versions of the same person at age 60. In the first version, they spent years drowning in panic, avoiding the topic, feeling ashamed, doing nothing because it all felt overwhelming. In the second version, they accepted where they were, made gradual improvements, adjusted their lifestyle, and focused on progress instead of regret. Neither version has a perfect situation, but one is calm, and the other is exhausted by fear. That difference comes from mindset more than money. So what does all of this mean in real life? It means the path forward doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to become a financial genius overnight. You don't need extreme sacrifices or risky gambles. Most people simply need a calmer, more honest relationship with their future. Start by telling yourself the truth without cruelty, not the harsh, judgmental version, just the clear, adult version. This is where I am. This is what I have. This is what I can change. Clarity beats panic every time. Then focus on small actions instead of giant fantasies. Small increases in savings, small reductions in unnecessary spending, small improvements in how you plan your later years. None of it glamorous, all of it powerful. Over time, those little steps quietly rewrite the story you've been telling yourself. Also, give yourself permission to redefine what retirement even means. Maybe it doesn't mean stopping work completely at 65. Maybe it means working less, or working differently, or creating a slower, simpler version of life. The old, rigid definition of retirement is fading, and that flexibility is actually good news for people who feel behind. Another practical shift is learning to separate today's stress from tomorrow's possibilities. Anxiety makes you feel like the future is already decided, but it isn't. Your next 10 or 15 years still hold enormous potential to improve your situation, far more than your worried brain wants to admit. And please hear this clearly. You do not need to become rich to be okay in retirement. You need stability. You need reasonable expectations. You need a plan that fits your real life. Peace is built from realism, not perfection. Most importantly, stop treating yourself like a failure in advance. So many good, hardworking people walk around carrying secret shame about their financial past. That shame steals energy you could be using to move forward. You don't fix the future by punishing yourself for yesterday. You fix it by gently, consistently doing better from now on. Retirement anxiety thrives in silence. It grows when you avoid it. It grows when you pretend you're not scared. It grows when you compare yourself to impossible standards. But it shrinks the moment you face it honestly. The moment you realize you're not alone. The moment you understand that progress is still possible. If you take only one idea from this entire conversation, let it be this: your future is not ruined just because your past wasn't perfect. There is still time. There are still options. There are still meaningful changes you can make. And most of all, there is still hope. One day, years from now, you're going to wake up again and think about retirement. But instead of that tight, panicked feeling, you might feel something softer. Not total certainty, not magical confidence, just a quiet sense that you're going to be okay. That's the goal, not perfection. Peace. So take a breath. You don't need to solve everything tonight. You just need to keep moving forward, slowly, honestly, gently, because progress, no matter how small, will always beat silent panic. And you are far more capable than your fear wants you to believe.